Hello, and welcome to the Gamer's Closet. I'm your host, Douglas Weed, and today we're going to be talking about Sherlock Holmes, a game of deduction and suspense. This game was manufactured by Whitman Games in 1980. It runs for about an hour of game time and seats 3 to 4 players. But let's dig into it a little further, shall we? Sherlock Holmes, a game of deduction and suspense, was released by Whitman Games in 1980. It is classified as a deduction, murder, mystery, roll, spin, and movement game. In this game, a diamond has been stolen, and the detective Sherlock Holmes must discover who has done the crime. There is a single counter representing Sherlock Holmes, and players take turns moving it about to try to figure out who stole the diamond. This game does have special distinction as it's one of the few games that was actually authorized by the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle estate. This game does come with multiple pieces. It comes with a game board, 1 player pawn, 1 die, and 36 suspect cards. To set up this game, place the Sherlock Holmes playing piece on Scotland Yard. Roll the die to determine who will begin play. The player who rolls the highest number becomes the dealer. They shuffle the suspect cards, slide the top card off the deck without looking at it, and place it face down in the center of the game board. The suspect pictured on this card is the thief. Players will attempt to guess their identity during the course of the game. All remaining cards are dealt face down one at a time to each player. Players study the cards in their hands and match any pairs. For example, 2 made suspect cards, 2 butlers, etc. Each pair is then placed off the game board near the corresponding suspect space. After the initial pairing, a player can lay down pairs only when they land on Scotland Yard or a suspect space. The paired suspects are cleared of guilt. The dealer rolls the die and moves the Sherlock Holmes playing piece clockwise the corresponding number of spaces. Play passes to the left as the game continues with players attempting to eliminate suspects using their deductive powers to determine the identity of the thief. When a player believes they know the identity of the guilty party, they may, at their turn, without moving their playing piece, announce their suspicion. They state aloud the name of the suspect, then look at the card in the center of the game board. Be careful to avoid letting your opponents see it. If they are correct, they turn the card over and declare themselves the winner of the game. If they are incorrect, they return the card face down to the center of the game and they are now out of the game. They must distribute their remaining cards, dealing 1 card face down to each player, starting with the player to the left. Play then passes to the left until a winner is declared. The game does have several different kinds of spaces on it, which I will be going over the different spaces now. The 18 suspects pictured on the game board represent the people present when the theft was discovered. When a player lands on a space picturing a suspect, they must lay down face up the corresponding card or cards from their hand. For example, if a player lands on the chauffeur space, they must put down all the chauffeur cards they hold. Only the player who lands on the space can lay down the corresponding suspect cards. When you land on the all pass 1 card to the left space, each player must pass 1 card from their hand face down to the player on their left. They may not look at the card they received until they have passed a card to the left. If a player lands on the investigate space, they may take 1 card from any player, but must give that card or another card from their hand back in exchange. When you land on the move to any space, do the instructions just as the game states. Move to any space on the game board and follow the instructions on that space. When you land on the Scotland Yard space, all players with pairs in their hands must put them down. Single suspect cards cannot be laid down. As more pairs are made and more suspects cleared, it will become easier to determine the identity of the thief. If you land on the Scotland Yard or investigate space, the player may use this as an investigate space without moving their playing piece, or may move to Scotland Yard and play accordingly. When you land on the corner spaces of take a card or give a card, you follow the directions on that space, but unlike the other players' spaces, you do not have to return a card or give a card when taking one. The first player to correctly identify the thief is Sherlock Holmes, and is awarded with a round of applause. One player tip that does come with the game is each suspect is pictured on 2 cards which are numbered number 1 and number 2. This helps players differentiate between the 2 otherwise identical cards. A suspect cannot be eliminated unless a player has seen both number 1 and number 2 of the same suspect. For example, if Butler 1 is laid down and a player has Butler number 2 in their hand, they can remove the Butler from their suspect list. Well, this has been an overview of Sherlock Holmes, a game of deduction and suspense. This game was manufactured by Whitman Games in 1980. It is a Sir Arthur Conan Doyle estate approved game, so it is an official Sherlock Holmes game. Playing this game, the board looks nice. The cards are of nice quality. They're not too flimsy. It has a really nice playthrough ability on it. It's really easy to pick up, really easy to play. It's very kid-friendly. But playing this game, the one thing that kept sticking out to me, it's kind of like a Clue clone. It has a few different mechanics to it, but 90% of this game basically is playing a Sherlock Holmes themed version of Clue. As the game goes on its own, I mean, it's a pretty decent game. It plays through really nice. It's really easy to play, really easy to pick up. You'll have a good time. It is rated for 3 to 4 players. So if you want a game for a decent game night with a couple of people, this might be a good option for you. It goes online anywhere from about $10 to $30, so it's not super expensive, but it is a little on the rarer side. Copies of this game don't show up very often, and when they do, you want to make sure they're in nice shape, because like you said, there's a lot of cards to it, and if you lose any of the cards, it's really hard to play this game. But on its own, I think it's a pretty decent game. The game runs really smooth. It's really nice. Like I said, it has some really nice art to look at. It is an actual Conan Doyle estate themed branded game. So it is a high quality to Sherlock Holmes collectors, or if you want a good mystery game, it's a decent option. So if you haven't played Sherlock Holmes, a game of deduction and suspense, I would recommend giving it a look. Like I said, it's a little on the rarer side to find it, but if you can find it, I would recommend picking it up, and I would recommend playing this game. Well, that's it from us here at the Gamer's Closet. We'd like to thank you for checking out our game of Sherlock Holmes, a game of deduction and suspense from Whitman Games. If there's a game in the future you'd like us to review or go over, please put it in the comments below. Please hit subscribe so that way you can be the first to check out our future content. And as always, please have a great gaming day.